Highway 1 is Afghanistan's most important ring route connecting the country's three major cities, Kabul in the east, Kandahar in the south and Herat in the west. On the eastern border with Pakistan, the highway cuts through Zabul, a province with a population of over 300,000 people. The area is of vital strategic importance to the Afghan government and people, but its terrain also makes it fairly easy ground for the insurgents to operate.
The
highway starts in Herat and Islam Kala and ends up in Tajikistan and Pakistan, meaning it's not just an Afghan highway. It's an international highway with many political and economic values. Therefore, those people who don't want to see improvements in Afghanistan create obstacles and challenges. There are even some bandit groups which are related to international mafia operating on the highway. It's an important international highway, not only an Afghan highway.
But insurgent activity has not been the only cause for grievance along this route. When international forces first came to Afghanistan, police corruption, for instance demanding bribes, was another reason for locals to avoid the perilous journey. All that is now changing, however, due to a police mentoring program called Focus District Development. It's run by the Americans and it's aimed at training those who will ultimately make a difference.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the police are the linchpin to this whole thing, because unlike the Army or ISAF forces who are generally don't live amongst the populace, they don't have as much daily contact, whereas the police are walking the beat, or have constant contact with the populace. So they are, to me, they're really the front lines in the fight.
And aid agencies are also finding it much easier to operate since this program was implemented.
Since the FDD projects got implemented in our three districts on Highway 1, which is Shaju, Shar Safa and Kalat, obviously the corruption reduced. The police are getting paid on the time, and they are obviously performing very nice duties. The community which is living around the Highway 1 in these three districts where we have the FDD projects, the community are really willing and supporting the ANP, because previously obviously the ANP were not trained. We had not this project, and the police were not able to perform their duties well.
During the early days of this police mentoring team, they came up with the idea of creating larger police stations and staffing them with around 30 officers, allowing local residents to report any complaints directly.
Well, my predecessor and the team that was here before me did the hard work of came here. They were the first PMT. They evaluated the situation. They recommended that all the checkpoints be basically consolidated. To do two things: A, cut down on the corruption, and two, that most of these checkpoints were only manned by 6 or 8 ANP, so they were easy targets for the Taliban. Now that we consolidated them, they're not as easy targets, and also forces them to go out and actually actively patrol rather than just sitting in their checkpoint, getting out, active presence, meeting with the populace. When I talk to civilians from a year ago, the situation has improved vastly. Not only are the police not corrupt, taking bribes, but the people in general feel safer. Now there's always going to be spikes in activity like we're experiencing now, but you know, if the police continue what they do, they patrol, they aggressively go after the Taliban, deter them, capture or kill them, the situation will continue to improve.
The concept of focused district development is being operated in a number of provinces across Afghanistan, and having a police force that is not corrupt is important in winning local support.
When Afghans move along the road, when they travel, Obviously, it's the authority of the Afghan government that they see, and that is a policeman that treats them fair and honest, and is not ripping them off or taking half of their car booth as toll for them to pass. So I think that the FDD program is key. It is key to the success of the freedom of movement for the Afghan people. But also along those routes, usually we have economic development, so that's good. So by having the FDD program, directly and indirectly, you are supporting the reconstruction and development as well as the governance lines of operations.
Although a remarkable shift has already been achieved, extending this mentoring program to even more regions and districts will be key for the country. That means a need for sustained training teams to train enough Afghan police so that one day they can operate independently to high standards that will make the Afghan people proud. This is Dan Morgan for the NATO channel in Afghanistan.